So 15 years ago, I saw some pictures of the stalactites and stalagmites down here and just was so enamored with the beauty that I had to come down and take a look at it for myself. And just was blown away by what I saw here, and had to come back for more and get the training. And the trainer that I had asked me, one of his questions was, do you want to be a cave diver? I said, I think I might.
I was on a dive trip with a good friend of mine. We went to Cozumel, and one of the dive guides suggested we go across and go to a cenote, and I'd never really thought or heard about it. And so we took the ferry across and went to Chuck Mole. Me, myself, got up to that sign that said, stop, go no further unless you're trained, and all you think about is, you know, it has to be prettier beyond that. So that's really how I got into it.
So caves are interesting because they're ever changing, and you go to one cave and you see one thing, and you go to another and you see something else. And I often describe it as the mountains inside out. You know, we have enormous passages the size of a stadium, stalactites hanging from the ceiling and stalagmites from the floor, and sometimes meeting in a column, and we're in a massive room and columns and that are just enormous. And so that's one side of what we see. And then sometimes, in order to get to that large cave, we have to swim through some small sections we call restrictions. And so we've trained to swim through those restrictions, or it might just be a smaller tunnel that we're going through for, 10 feet. It might be 200 feet through a smaller tunnel.
It's just so magical. It's very much a spiritual experience. The way I describe it to people is, in our daily lives, we've got 20 channels of noise going on all the time, and this is the one opportunity that all of that shuts down, and I'm solely focused on one goal and one thing, and it's just such a pure feeling. It really is kind of a harmony. And again, once you get to experience, I think, just the variation between caves, the variation between dives, because it's not the same. I mean, people think I go cave diving and every cave is exactly the same, and there's no two caves that are exactly the same. There's such a variety. It's a different, it's just like a golfer going to play different golf courses, right? No golf course is the same, and this is my golf.
It was a bit of an adrenaline rush at the beginning, just to see the beauty and everything going on, but I recognized more of a spiritual connection with what I was seeing in the cave, and just that relationship to my faith, and understanding what we've been given as a gift to see here. Every trip, there's a little bit more that we see because, well, number one, we've progressed in our training, and number two, we've been to this cave a couple times before, and we want to see a little bit more of it. And we now understand this part of the cave, and we want to understand some other parts of the cave. So, it's a total adventure, exploration, seeing where we can go. But it's only achieved through that progression of training and discipline, to understanding what we can do and what we're capable of.
One of the questions that I get asked most often is, aren't you afraid of drowning? Aren't you afraid of running out of air? And that, to me, that question is akin to asking a pilot, aren't you scared of running out of fuel? Aren't you scared of falling out of the sky? And there's so many things that happen before that ultimate event, and that's what I'm focused on. There's, we talk about a cascade of events leading up to something that ultimately causes an issue, and that's where we go into such depth of training, and it's the iteration of training. And I was making the comment to someone the other day that I've never had a dive as bad as my training. And by that, I mean as challenging, as fatiguing mentally and emotionally and physically. It's that training that gives you the calm focus when you need it. And without that training, good luck. That's probably the demise of most people. It's the reaction and the cascade of events, the panic.
30, 40 years ago, we came out with the rules of cave diving, the 5 rules of cave diving, which essentially say we have to have backups for everything, redundancy, and we're going to follow lines. We always have a continuous line. We always have at least 3 dive lights. We have 2 sources of air. And so we have these safety factors, and then we train on those safety factors, and we learn how to, if we have an emergency in the cave, how to ensure our safety. If we lose track of the line, how do we find the line if there's a silt out? How do we, if we have an air failure, how do we share air from our buddy while we get out? We use rules of thirds on our gas planning. So we use 1/3 of the gas going in, we use 1/3 of the gas going out, and we don't touch the last third, because that's our buddy's gas, that's our emergency gas, that's our contingency gas. And so that enables us to be very practical and really make this sport safer than driving a car down the road where there's many other variables going on. So we really see safety through training as the key to be able to really enjoy the beauty and the splendor of what we see. So we started diving together, and just the team concept of diving, we back each other up. We're here for each other, and we have signals that we use in the cave, and we see that sparkle in each other's eyes when we're just so amazed to see what we see, or when we have an accomplishment that's really cool. And so, this relationship that we have is just developed into something just very, very unique that we have to share here. And I don't know that we would have had this relationship in any other way, but we have a friendship that's just really cool, that's developed out of all this.
Best part of diving with David, the consistency. I mean, really, when you think of who do you want in a co-pilot seat or pilot seat, if you're the co-pilot, either way, I mean, you want someone who is analytical, you want someone who is rational, you want someone who has a mental discipline of how they go through their thought process of dealing with issues. And so, that's been really I think the big benefit of he and I both diving together for so long, is just getting to know each other in that environment really builds the relationship. And again, that's one of the things, the consistency of diving with the same person over and over again. It becomes second nature of the expectations, and certainly he and I both make each other better divers, and I think that's probably the best part of diving with each other. Is if he and I weren't improving one another, I'd question if we're really getting a lot out of our partnership.